Hello everyone. Welcome to the Audio Storage Channel, a channel specializing in providing the best reading stories today. Wish you a happy day listening to stories. Invite you to listen. A long time later, she gradually recovered, slowly stood up, her face tired, walking step by step towards the bed. I quickly covered my mouth with my hand, not daring to move. It was not until her bare feet stood before me that I felt cold sweat breaking out. Luckily, she did not discover me, only lying on the bed to rest. It was dark under the bed. I did not even dare to breathe loudly, afraid of waking her up. I thought about it over and over again. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. A child born into a fishing family like me, with a lowly status, how could I become Han Shanjin's adopted daughter-in-law since childhood? Before he died, Elder Gao wanted me to stay in the Han family, to be friends with Han Shanyu. He said that I owed the Han family, and had to repay it. Han Shanyu taught me to read and write, taught me to play the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, saying that being imprisoned in a big house, at least I had to have something to love to continue living. Being able to marry Han Shanyu was originally my blessing. Why did it become a way to repay my debt? Being trapped in the boudoir, living without any regrets, was because I had to marry. From beginning to end, it was a woman. Who was she? Was she a human or a ghost? Why did she sleep with the Qingzu in her mouth? I was terrified and guessed. My mind was in a mess. Suddenly I heard a noise at the door. My breathing stopped. It was Ah Shin. It seemed like she was kneeling outside the door, her voice filled with worry. Master, Miss Baoer is nowhere to be seen. In the courtyard, a row of lanterns were lit. Everywhere was bright. Han Shanyu wore a jet black brocade robe, her hair tied high with a jade hairpin, standing in the hallway. She gathered men and horses, ordered the blockade of Zhongyue City, and checked each person one by one. Ah Shin and the others knelt on the ground, trembling as they endured her wrath. Not long after, she returned to her room, sat down on the chair, leaned on the table, tiredly rubbing her eyebrows. Opening her eyes, her gaze was cold to the point of fear. She ordered the mobilization of all the guards in the mansion, searching everywhere. She stood up and walked into the inner room. I was extremely scared, feeling like an ant in a pan of oil, in a dilemma. With my heart burning like fire, I saw her take the sword off the shelf. Taking advantage of the moment she turned around to leave, I decided to crawl out, bravely facing everything. I called out in a low voice, Han Jun. She stopped, turned her head, and looked at me in surprise as I crawled out from under the bed. Han Shan Yu was really a woman. This was the secret of the Han family. Besides Elder Gao and Fourth Master Han, only Jia Niang knew. And now, there was also a Hui Bao. The pain in her eyes was obvious. She tightly grabbed my wrist. Why don't you listen? I've decided to choose a good husband for you, give you another path to take, but you want to seek death, throw yourself into the net. I was frightened by her stern appearance, my face pale. Han Jun wants to kill me? Her expression was hard to predict. Seeing me scared, she coldly said, I originally intended to forgive you, let you live a normal life like any other woman, but now that you know my identity, it's impossible anymore. For the rest of your life, don't even think about leaving the Han family. You must be content to be the wife of the Han family, for life and death. Oh, you scared me to death. I thought you wanted to kill me. When I first learned that she was a woman, I was extremely surprised. Then seeing her sleeping with a Qingzu in her mouth, I was even more afraid. But when I crawled out from under the bed, saw the familiar face before my eyes, the living person, Han Shanjin, who had been with me for 8 years. The storms that were rising in my heart suddenly calmed down. She was not just a woman, she might not even be a person. But my purpose of hiding under the bed had been achieved. Knowing that I had disappeared, she immediately mobilized the men and horses, and even went into the room to get a sword. The worry and sadness in her eyes were completely because she cared for me. I grew up beside her. 8 years of affection could not be faked. I, Hui Bao, have never hidden anything from you, although I have not yet recovered from knowing that you are a woman, but when I heard you say that I must be a wife of the Han family, I felt a little happy in my heart. Being the wife of the Han family means I can marry you, right? Han Shanyu looked at me, her expression instantly becoming incomprehensible. I was overjoyed, smiling and saying, Han Jun, you must keep your word, you must not go back on your word. My marriage with Han Shanyu was just like that set for March. The green willows were covered with light morning mist, the red apricot blossoms on the branches were full of spring scent. It was truly a good day. I started to recover as usual. Whenever I had nothing to do, I would go looking for her. She was in the study reading, I was beside her painting. I realized that she treated me somewhat distantly, so when I was painting, I would often absent-mindedly look at her, and I couldn't help but remember that day when I passionately kissed her, and she held my waist. I was so useless, I had gone crazy. Even though I knew she was a woman, every time I remembered the scene of hugging and kissing her, my face would still turn red and my heart would beat fast, vibrate endlessly. My mind always echoes the poem, Mok Mok Song Ha Em Jong Xiao Dao, a ball of soft and fragrant peach blossoms. I finished. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became. My face flushed. It seemed like my desire for her was getting stronger. Once again drawing a picture of flowers and birds, I played the same old trick, begging her to help draw the bird's tail. She raised her eyebrows slightly, and said calmly, "Abao, you have to learn to complete the painting yourself. I can't help you forever." I blushed, put down my brush, and walked in front of her. "You really don't like me?" That day I felt very happy. "Don't you feel comfortable?" Shocked by my frankness, Han Shanyu clenched the book in her hand. Her breathing was a little rapid, her voice trembling. "You already know that I'm not a man. But I still love you. Moreover, I only love you, as long as it's you, I can accept it." I looked at her shyly. "I love you, it's the call of my heart, it's not related to male or female, nor is it concerned with gender. We're about to get married, why don't you try to accept me?" "Abao, I can't." "Why? I already have someone in my heart." Han Shanyu looked away, not daring to look at me. She replied with great difficulty, her voice faltering. I immediately felt my heart turn cold. Who do you like?" Han Shanyu didn't answer. I was angry and said in frustration, "It's useless to like. It's useless. The one who has to marry you is me. From now on, you are only allowed to like me." After saying that, I angrily turned around and left. Walking under the eaves, my heart was still not satisfied. I turned around and stomped my feet, fiercely snorted at her. "After we get married, you are not allowed to like anyone else." I seemed to care more about Han Shanyu having someone in her heart than I had imagined. After the initial anger, my heart felt extremely uncomfortable, like being pricked by needles. The pain was so numb. I was absolutely certain that I liked her. From the first time I saw her, from the time she hugged me with her ears full of blood, leaving that small courtyard. From the first time she taught me to write. The 6 locusts are high and the willows are still new. The wind blows so hard that they enter the mysterious. From the time she spoiled me to play with water, and she would sit by the charcoal stove in the hallway to peel cloth for me to eat. From the time I told her, the wind and rain are like a hurry, the rooster sings but does not work, I see a gentleman, the clouds do not rejoice. From the time I couldn't help but kiss her, both cheeks turned red. I liked her more than I had imagined, regardless of whether she was male or female, human or ghost, I was willing to accept. But she said she already had someone in her heart. I was really sad. Until the day of the wedding I did not take the initiative to look for her. The wedding of the head of the Han family was held solemnly and bustlingly. In March, spring came, hundreds of flowers bloomed. Everywhere in the mansion were hung lanterns and flowers, guests were crowded, the governor's office of the 2 prefectures of Gaoshan Dao were all someone came to attend. I wore a crimson wedding dress, in the deafening sound of firecrackers, stepped over the fire basin, and bowed to Han Shanyu to marry her. After that, I waited for her in the bridal chamber. The sky was already dark, the red candles were burning, I covered myself with a veil, waiting for a long time but still did not see her come. It was not until a Shin walked in, stammering to me, "The guests outside have not dispersed yet, the lord is drunk. Tell the madam to rest first, no need to wait for him." I threw off the veil, feeling resentful in my heart. I did not believe a Shin's words at all. I waited for another half an hour, still no one came. I pursed my lips tightly, the feelings of sadness that had accumulated in my heart for so long had reached their limit. I stood up, determined to go find her. A Shin and the maids wanted to stop me, but quickly shouted that no, there were no such rules. I asked Ah Shin, "Then is there any reason to leave me alone on our wedding night?" Ah Shin is now a woman over 40 years old, much older than before. She is the one who watched me grow up, her feelings for me will of course be different. Ah Shin quietly stopped the maids who still wanted to stop me. I walked straight through the corridor, to Wei Feng Inn. Sure enough, Han Shanyu was here. The so-called drunkenness was just an excuse, her health was not good, except for Zhang Niang's osmanthus wine, she basically did not drink alcohol. It was late at night, the room was lit with bright lights. I stood outside the door, not entering, because besides her, there was another person inside. That person was not a guest of the Han residence, nor was he a knight, he was wearing a brocade robe, with a dignified appearance, talking and laughing with Han Shanyu. At first glance he was a gentle young master like Jade. I saw her calling him second young master. Han Shan Yu received him with the etiquette of a host. The two sat next to each other, keeping a moderate distance, speaking politely but not rudely. She was like a fairy carved from jade, wearing a red wedding dress. Her appearance was peerless, as handsome as a fairy descending to earth. The young master stared at her, often absent-minded. Han Shan Yu smiled and asked, "What are you thinking about, second young master?" He came back to his senses, and said apologetically, "Seeing Han Jun, I couldn't help but think of your older sister. If Wei were still alive, she would probably be like, 'That's right, elder sister has passed away for many years. I'm sorry that the second young master still remembers her. Han Jun doesn't need to be so polite with me. You and I had an engagement since we were young. If she were still alive, I would be your brother-in-law now. It's because elder sister has no good fortune." Thuong Hak Tiu, the second young master of Thuong Dai Nyan, the military governor of Chau. I know him. Before, when elder Sao was still alive, he wanted to strengthen the relationship with the Thuong family, so he and his father, Thuong Jiang, made an engagement. Han Sun Nok originally had a twin sister, named Han Sun Wei. When Thuong Hak Tiu was young, because he had an engagement with Han Sun Wei, he was treated by the Han family as a future son-in-law. He almost considered the Han family as his own home, occasionally begging his father to bring him here to live for a while. That's why he said to Han Shan Yu, "I remember that although you and your older sister look alike, your personalities are completely different. Yu is brave, fearless of heaven and earth, and often does naughty things. When she causes trouble and is punished, she will glare fiercely and not admit her mistakes even when she dies. As for Han Jun, he has been sickly since he was young, like a young lady raised in a room, speaking softly, often hiding behind his grandfather. Did the second young master come here today to expose my weaknesses?" Han Shan Yu half smiled and half ignored him. Thuong Hak Tiu smiled slightly. "I'm 2 years older than you too, and I was often by your older sister's side when I was young. Every time she causes trouble, she has a habit of blaming me. I am willing to take the blame for her, because she said that she and I have an engagement. In the future I am the one she will marry. It is natural to protect her. What does second young master want to say? Wei and I are childhood sweethearts, the same with Han Jun. She trusts me very much, often tells me all her unhappy stories. Even when I am not in the Han family, she will write to me. Wei once told me that she admires you very much, that her grandfather puts all his hopes and cares for you. No matter what she does, she will not be taken seriously. I told her that it is okay, because I will take care of her, put her in the #1 position in my heart." Wei was very happy to hear that. "When I came to central Vietnam, she pulled me into the forest to dig bird nests. It was also that time I was almost bitten by a poisonous snake. Wei caught the snake with her bare hands, but it bit her wrist, almost losing her life. Childhood feelings are truly unforgettable. Elder sister has passed away for many years, but the second young master still remembers these things clearly. It is truly touching." Han Shanyu politely interrupted him. "I heard that Uncle Chang's body is not well. It is rare for second young master to come here today. Another day you will definitely come to the mansion to pay a visit, hoping that Uncle Chang will recover soon." Chang Hexiao was not a fool. He definitely realized the distant meaning in her words. But he did not know what he was thinking. His expression was calm. He opened his mouth and asked, "Han Jun, can you tell me where the scar on your wrist came from?" Han Shanyu raised his eyebrows, raised his right hand, revealing a small scar on his wrist. "This? Just a burn, coincidentally in the same place as sister's wound. It must be fate. Han Jun doesn't need to explain. I recognize her. She's afraid of thunder, allergic to peach pollen." Chang Yishao's eyes were deep. "You also told me. You and her are twin sisters. When you were young you dressed the same. Almost no one could tell you apart, but she has a mole on her shoulder. Han Jun doesn't have one." What does second young master mean by that? What are you doubting?" Han Shanyu seemed to have heard a huge joke, and looked at him mockingly. Chang Hexiao didn't say anything, just silently looked at her. The two of them just stared at each other, neither of them willing to give in. Until I put on a bright red wedding dress and walked in. I said, "Han Jun left me alone in the bridal chamber. Why did you come so late?" Not caring about anything else, I took advantage of the moment when the other person hadn't turned around, pretending to be anxious, and grabbed Han Shanyu's shirt, kissing her lips. She looked at me, not resisting at all. I closed my eyes, tightening my arms around her neck. Her hand on my waist gradually tightened. Both of us didn't bother to pay attention to Chang Hexiao's expression, until a long time later. Only Han Shanyu and I were left in the room. together with the sound of panting intertwined. My hand was on her body. When I was about to untie the wedding belt, her clothes were held tightly by her. She was clearly aroused. Her eyes were slightly raised, red and sparkling. Her earlobes were pink. Her thin, pale lips were red and swollen from my kisses. Beside her ear was her rapid breathing. She said hoarsely, "Abao, no." I felt wronged, asked her, "Is it because of him?" The person in your heart, is it him?" Han Shan Yu was stunned and laughed, shaking his head, "No." "Then who is it? Tell me." "Can't say." Can't, why are you always so reserved with me?" "Sorry." On the wedding day, Han Shanyu and I slept at Hufeng Inn. I was angry again, using a long screen as a boundary between me and her. One person slept in the inner room, the other person slept in the outer room. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, as if rice paper was being grilled on the bed. On the other side, Han Shanyu did not make any movement. Finally, I could not bear it anymore, feeling restless and uncomfortable all over. Putting my feet down on the bed, I angrily walked past the screen, standing in front of Han Shanyu. Sure enough, she immediately opened her eyes, frowning slightly. "Ah Bao." She only had time to call my name, because I had lifted my feet up on the bed, sitting on her. Under her surprised gaze, I once again kissed her lips. On the head of the bed, a small lamp emitted a faint light. She wanted to push me away. I bit her, then buried my head in her neck, mumbled, "Han Shan Yu." The hand on my shoulder paused for a moment. I called again, "Han Shan Yu." Her hand was grabbed by me. I looked into her eyes, calling her name over and over again. She no longer refused me, her expression gentle, slowly closing her eyes. "Abao, I don't have much longer to live, I shouldn't waste you." Her eyes were wet, the corners of her eyelashes were filled with tears. My heart suddenly ached. I hugged her tightly, and said in her ear, "Life is short, we should enjoy it in time, so don't refuse me." I took off the shirt on her shoulder. Sure enough, there was a small mole there, along with endless spring scenery. I leaned my forehead against hers, blushing, and said, "The book doesn't say how women consummate their marriage, but I will find out for myself. Han Shan Yu, we will be very happy." Han Shan Yu opened her eyes and looked at me. Her originally deep eyes were now extremely gentle, reaching out to press my head down. "Little fool." Han Shan Yu was Han Shan Yu, the nephew that old Master Gao wanted to sacrifice at all costs to save, drowned at the age of 8. From then on, the boy's older sister, Han Shan Yu, dressed as a man and became a young master. Fuang Haktiu was right. Han Shan Yu was really too well protected by his grandfather, and became a child with a weak personality. As for Han Shan Yu, she was smart, brave, resilient and unyielding, who knows how many times stronger than her younger brother. She could shoulder the Han family more than Han Shan Yu, but just because of her status as a woman, old Master Gao did not value her, and even frowned at her competitive nature many times. Because her mother was a competitive woman. That competitive woman was not at all content with her position. She was the daughter of an escort. After giving birth to a pair of sons and daughters, she insisted on fulfilling her father's last wish, and re-hanging the flag of their escort agency. Old Master Gao's son once worked as an escort with her, and both husband and wife were murdered by the enemy at the same time. Therefore, the more Han Shan Yu longed for her grandfather's recognition, the more it backfired, causing him to hate her. In the end, she also hated her younger brother Han Shan Yu, believing that if it weren't for him, her grandfather definitely wouldn't have treated her like this. Perhaps it was because she showed too much hostility. After Han Shanyu accidentally fell into the water, although she risked her life to save him, but later her grandfather still suspected that she pushed her younger brother down. The two children were the same age. After falling into the water, they both became seriously ill. Zich Chau disappeared into thin air. Elder Cao invited the medicine king into the mansion. That old man with white hair and beard had excellent medical skills. He was a hidden expert. He shook his head and said that the young master was already sick. He was afraid that he could not be saved anymore. But in his hand he had 3 Gui Yuan Dan. Only these 3 pills were the result of his life's work. Taking all 3 pills could save the little girl's life. Elder Cao refused, insisting on giving the 3 pills to his grandson who could not be saved. Medicine King sighed, shook his head and said that if he did that, he would lose both of his grandchildren. 1 pill was given, but it had no effect. Another pill was given, but there was still no reaction. But the little girl woke up from her coma, and upon hearing this, she desperately crawled to her grandfather. She didn't want to die, and cried and begged her grandfather to save her. She begged him for a long, long time, until she was desperate, and then fainted again. And her grandfather finally agreed to give her the remaining pill, because her younger brother had passed away that night. Her fate was not to die. From then on, Han Shan Yu became Han Shan Yu. Because she could only take one pill, her body had always been not good. Especially in recent years, she clearly felt that her health was deteriorating. According to the plan of a guest in the mansion, she needed to use the azure pearl that could stop the corpse from decomposing to delay her body from gradually dying, even though doing so would cause her to endure the pain caused by the azure pearl suppressing the corpse. Han Shan Yu was a living person, and also a woman. But she was a woman destined to die. After when we made love, I put on a thin layer of clothing and pressed my ear against her chest. The sound of my heartbeat still echoed steadily. Her hair was like a waterfall, silently looking at me. Her light brown eyes were elegant like mist, still beautiful enough to move the heart. Her hand caressed my face, her voice whispered, "Abao, I am sorry to you. If I am no longer here, how will you take care of yourself?" I turned around and lay down with her, close to her, pressing against her neck. "It is I who am sorry to you. If that year my father brought Zich Chau to the Han family, Han's son Nog would not have died. Those 3 pills would have been given to you. You would still be smart and strong, and you could still marry the person you love." Han Shan Yu smiled. She said, "Little fool, you don't understand me at all, nor do you understand my grandfather. If that red pearl had appeared that year, there would be no medicine king entering the palace. He would have suspected that I had attacked my younger brother, so he wouldn't have thought of using 100 buckets of pearls to save my life. I don't understand. Elder Gao is highly respected and virtuous. He is clearly a good person." "That's right, he is a good person, but he doesn't love me. In this world other than you, no one loves me." "I don't believe it. The young master of the Chong family is your childhood sweetheart, and we even have a marriage contract." Chong Yi Shao, childhood affection can't be called love. Moreover, it's been so many years, it has long since faded away. Humph, he definitely still has you in his heart, otherwise he wouldn't have said those words today. That year, when he heard the news of my death, he was indeed heartbroken for a while. Then, when he was 17, he got married. Now, he has a beautiful wife and beautiful concubines, and many children. Do you think that he still has me in his heart?" Han Shan Yu laughed out loud and teased, "I would rather believe that he wants to harm me." "He wants to harm you?" "I was just joking. There are many people who want to harm me. It's not just him. Ah Bao, you must remember that human nature is a mixture of good and evil. In this world, never trust anyone. But, I trust Han Shan Yu." "Well, you fool, you can trust me." The wedding night between Han Shan Yu and I was indeed very happy. We were honest with each other, hugging each other naked and sleeping. The next day when I woke up, the sun was already 3 poles high. And a shocking incident happened in the mansion. Jia Niang was nowhere to be seen. The one who disappeared with her was Yun Zhou. Yun Zhou was a young guard with a handsome appearance, who would bring spring water from the mountain to Jia Niang every autumn. Unexpectedly, he was a spy who infiltrated the Han mansion. 3 months ago, he used a swallow to deliver a letter, passing some news from the Han family's pearl farm outside. That swallow was shot down. Han Shan Yu imprisoned him in a dark dungeon, used torture to interrogate him, and forced him to ask about his background. Who would have thought? Well, his mouth was sealed shut. He would rather die than say anything. It wasn't that he didn't say anything at all. He said that even if he died, he wouldn't say anything. He would rather die happily like this. From coercion to bribery, Han Shan Yu was determined to use all kinds of tricks, until he was dying, really about to die. Jia Niang begged for him again, making Han Shan Yu angry. She told me, since she was little, Jia Niang had been by her side serving her. The two of them were the same age, growing up together. Later, Han Shan Yu became Han Shan Yu. Elder Gao said that his granddaughter had died, and chased away all the people around her. Only Jia Niang, who was originally an orphan, was brought into the mansion, and had very deep feelings for the young lady, and didn't want to leave. She even secretly went to see Han Shan Yu's corpse. After being discovered by Elder Gao, he ordered her to be beaten to death. Han Shan Yu cried and begged, telling Elder Gao that she needed someone to know her true identity, so that it would be convenient for them to serve her. Therefore, Jia Niang had her throat filled with mute medicine, destroying her vocal cords, and she became mute. Later, under the strict teachings of her grandfather, Han Shan Yu acquired a cold, hard heart and brilliant methods. But Jia Niang, to her, still had a special position. Who could have expected that now Jia Niang would risk her life and betray the Han family for a Yun Zhou? Han Shan Yu smiled. She said to me, "See, Abao, I told you, never trust anyone in this world. The Han residence's defenses were extremely strict, even though on the night of our wedding, the guests passing by gave Jia Niang a chance, but with just her alone, there was no way to save the injured Yun Zhou. Among the guests last night, there must be someone who came to save Yun Zhou. Han Shan Yu gave the order, regardless of everything, to kill Jia Niang. She even sent someone to inform Han Tran, to let him personally take action, even if he had to chase her all the way to the imperial capital. Her eyes were cold. I didn't dare to ask for Jia Niang's forgiveness. I also knew that I shouldn't open my mouth to beg. Jia Niang was mute, but she had another way. She could tell others the secret of the Han family. I am more heartbroken than anyone else. From now on, no one will be with me to catch cicadas with bamboo poles, pick flowers to make rouge, cook delicious soups anymore. The chirping of cicadas, the cool green shade of trees, the tiny sparkling rays of light, will never again shine on Jia Niang's bowed face. She will no longer secretly laugh at me, nor will she treat me like a child and protect me in her heart. I originally thought that I would never see her again. However, no one expected that, at the moment Han Shan Yu ordered to kill her, she would return. She knelt before Han Shan Yu, kowtowed, looked up, tears streaming down her face. That's right, she loved Yun Zhou. In her belly, she even carried his blood. She helped him escape, but she was determined to return to the Han family. Han Shanyue sneered. Do you think that since you've returned, you won't die? Jia Niang shook her head. She signaled to Han Shanyue. She didn't know anything, and didn't say a word. She never revealed anything about the Han family to Yunzhou, and she wouldn't tell us who Yunzhou really was. Because she really didn't know, and didn't want to know. Jia Niang, I won't trust you anymore. Han Shanyue looked at her with pity, and curled her lips into a smile. I've already said, except for that spy, I can help you make anyone you like happen, but when you saved him, you betrayed me. Jia Niang closed her eyes, accepting her fate. She was pregnant. Han Shan Yu did not kill her immediately. She said that the Han family really needed a child. This child must be born by me. 8 months later, I started pretending to vomit, liked to eat sour food, then stuffed pillows into my clothes. 8 months later, I pretended to be frightened and gave birth prematurely, giving birth to a child. The daughter of the Han family's head, Han Ling Yi. I originally thought that Han Shan Yu would leave a secret plan, ensuring that the child I gave birth to would be a boy. In the end, she didn't mean it. She said, "Ah Bao, I'm not him. Why does the head of the Han family have to be a man?" Han Shan Yu's identity is because my grandfather has prejudice against me, and because the world has prejudice against women. If that incident hadn't happened when we were young, and Han Shan Yu and I had both lived, with his ability, how could he have taken over the Han family? The world uses prejudice against me. If I also use prejudice against Ling Yi, then what's the difference between me and them? The shackles need to be broken. I may not have that chance, but I hope Ling Yi does. The world oppressed her, enduring all the falling bricks and dust. She was still alone, never truly standing up. But Han Ling Yi could stand up. Beside her were Han Shan Yu, Hu Bao, and Jia Niang. After Ling Yi was born, Jia Niang originally intended to commit suicide. I said to Han Shan Yu, he, little Ling Yi needs to suckle. I don't have it, do you? Han Shan Yu. After that, under my request, Jia Niang became little Ling Yi's wet nurse, specifically responsible for taking care of our child. As Han Shan Yu said, she hoped that Han Ling Yi would have the chance to break the shackles, so she was using all her strength to stabilize the situation of Gao Shandao. The capital was stormy and treacherous. The emperor had always intended to build rebuilding Mi Chuan. This is a very dangerous signal. The 2 governors of Gao Shandao, along with the small local officials, are still officials of the imperial court, and must obey the orders of the imperial court. Although they and the Han family have always had a very good personal relationship. Han Shan Yu smiled. She said to me, "What is a personal relationship?" It's just a feeling gained from the pearls. The pearl farm is owned by the Han family, but every year they still give them a lot of benefits. If it weren't for just relying on the ancestral land, how could the Han family have such a strong influence in Gao Shandao? Nowadays, when the situation is stable, everyone is friends. In reality, if it's not favorable, they will turn around and take your life right away. Han Shanyue understood human nature. She had always been suspicious. That spy named Yunzhou used a swallow to send news from the Han family pearl farm out. It could only be someone from the capital or someone sent by the 2 prefectures. Since they were so interested in the Han family pearl farm, Han Shanyue did not hide it anymore. She used the name of a banquet to invite the Guangzhou prefect Wu Shichang and the Yangzhou prefect Changjiang to the mansion. Since the beginning of spring until now, Changjiang's health had not been good. The people who came to the banquet were his two sons, Chang Yining and Chang Shao. At the banquet, Han Shangyue discussed with them, in addition to the rules that her grandfather had set before, she was willing to take 5 parts of the benefits, inviting them to jointly look after all the pearl farms in Gaoshan Road, and station troops there. These words not only surprised them, even I was scared. The Han family has more than 100 large and small pearl farms. If they send soldiers to station them, it would be like handing over the pearl farms to them. If they want to take them back in the future, it would be very difficult. Wu Shichang was like an old fox and asked, "Why did Lord Han Shan do this?" Han Shangyue smiled slightly and sighed, "Your Majesty must have known that the Emperor intends to rebuild Michuan in Gaoshan Dao. It is often said that the Emperor's will is unpredictable. I am only afraid that the family will be in trouble. This time, I came here only to ask for help from your Majesty." Her expression was dignified and her voice was sincere. Wu Shichang laughed loudly. Of course, he understood the logic behind it. Once the Emperor truly rebuilt Michuan, all the pearl farms in Gaoshan Dao would have to be handed over. At this time, the situation of the Han family will become very delicate, because of the Zhou Huan Zhuang. The Emperor may find an opportunity to attack the Han family first, then take back the pearl farm properly. If there were 2 Zhou Jiedushi who sent troops to station, the situation would be different. The pearl farm would no longer belong to the Han family only. When disaster strikes, the Han family can also retreat in one piece. Wu Shichang nodded in approval. My grandfather is 10,000 times worse than me. Only those who know the times are considered talented. My nephew is truly a smart person. The Han family should have done this a long time ago. You are laughing, I just want to protect myself. Han Shan Yu clasped her hands and bowed to him, her attitude respectful. It was already dark. Wu Shichang drank a good meal of wine, got drunk and stayed at the Han family for the night. The 2 brothers, Chang Yining and Chang Shao, said they wanted to report this matter to their father, so they did not stay long. When Thuong Hak Tiu was about to leave, he turned his head to look at Han Sun Wei deeply, his eyes filled with longing. That night, I was angry, bit Han Sun Wei's shoulder, and refused to let go. She let out a soft groan, reached out to touch my face, and said with a smile, "Are you a dog? Can you eat this vinegar too?" I let go of my mouth, and looked at her with dissatisfaction. "You're lying, he clearly has intentions towards you." "So what, a bow, I just want to be with you." She really knew how to grasp my weakness, lifted my chin, her lips barely touched mine, and her voice was hoarse. I couldn't control myself at all, and directly pressed her down under me. Han Sun Wei laughed out loud, "You've worked hard for a bow." Autumn passed and winter came, and Ling Yi was already 2 years old. The little girl was raised chubby and fair, extremely adorable. It would use a childish voice to call me, Mom Tilda, and call Han Shangyue, Dad Tilda. Her little hands were chubby, her arms were like lotus roots. Han Shangyue and I both liked her very much, and were often teased by her. But she clearly liked me more, because during the day I would always hold her, with a childish temperament, take her to play on the swing, lift her up high, and then the 2 of us would, giggling, happily. She also liked Jia Niang, because at night it was Jia Niang who would coax her to sleep. At that time, the horsemen of the 2 prefectures' military governors had been stationed at the Han family's pearl farm for more than a year. At first, I didn't know what Han Shanyu's purpose was in doing so, until Han Tran entered the mansion. This 4th Master Han, his only strong point was that he had a bit of strength and a simple mind. But he has one advantage, which is to value friendship, to be willing to fight side by side with his brothers in Tan Sa Tu, to be willing to fight side by side with them, without distinction between people. This is the blood and spirit of men, they admire each other. As Wat Khan Ba said in the past, after the Han family opened a pearl farm, pearls in Sao Sun Dao were still very cheap, but the transaction price outside was not cheap at all. Han Sun Wei once said, the thing the Han family did not lack the most was pearls and money, so she liked greedy people, who could be ordered around at will. The wealth that their ancestors had accumulated made them worry-free, using the pearl farm as a cover, and inside they raised a powerful private army. And now, the soldiers of the 2 prefectures' military governors were also divided into a portion to go to the pearl farm. The 4th Master Han was most proficient at winning people's hearts. Later, he married a pearl diver in Qingsha Temple, and had a boy and a girl with her, 1 year younger than Lingyi. On my 18th birthday, Han Shanyue asked me what I wanted. I smiled and hugged her neck, acting spoiled. I want you. Her eyes gently stroked my hair, You fool, I'm already yours. I said again. I want you to live a long life of 100 years, and we can be together forever. This request is a bit high, I will try to live a little longer. She smiled and said. I kept nodding my head, saying, Han Shanyue, can I read you a poem? Okay, the veins and veins are like peaches, a bunch of soft and fragrant. Get lost. Wrong, read it again. I'm not listening. Humph, now you'll listen. That winter, the old eunuch surnamed Tu suddenly stopped accepting the gifts the Han family sent. This was a very bad omen. Sure enough, not long after, an imperial edict was sent from the capital, summoning the head of the Han family in Gaoshandao, he and Sun Nok, go to the capital to see the emperor. Knowing that this trip is extremely dangerous, but the emperor's decree, she cannot help but go. She set off in February, escorted by Han Tran. At first, I also wanted to go with her, but Han Sunwei said, Abao, the emperor may not kill me, but if you follow, my 7 out of 10 victory will only be 3 out of 10. I don't understand, ask her what this means. She said, if you go to the capital with me, when we encounter danger, it will only make me confused, unable to keep calm. Little fool, obediently stay at the Han family, trust me, I will definitely return alive. I should trust her, Han Sunwei is so smart, no matter what happens, she is always calm and composed. She also really kept her promise, a month later she returned safely. The price she paid for returning alive was that, before the emperor allowed her to enter the audience, he made her kneel on the cold snow for 2 hours. Han Shan Yu was afraid of the cold, so when she left, she wore a mink coat, the walls of the carriage were sealed with cowhide, and a charcoal stove was also placed. The capital was much colder than Gaoshan Road. That day outside Taiyuan Palace, snow was falling. The weather was so cold that even her eyelashes were frozen. Then the emperor stood in front of her, tearing up the Zhou Huan Zhuang paper. She knelt on the ground, frozen from the cold, kowtowing to the emperor. The Han family of Gaoshan Road is willing to obey the imperial edict and be loyal to your majesty. That damned emperor laughed heartily, and only then did he spare her. After returning to the Han family, she fell ill, and her health deteriorated. Her face was as pale as a dead person, holding the green pearl in her mouth, and the green rays of light no longer spread under her skin. That pearl seemed to only have the effect of protecting the body. I was very scared, and asked her, Han Shan Yu, you won't die, right? She said, yes, Abao, I can't die yet. She couldn't die yet, because the emperor had sent someone here, declaring the order to rebuild Mi Suyen. Along with the group of people from the capital, there was also that old eunuch surnamed Shu. That old fox, who had received the favor of the Han family for so many years, still kept a smiling face, saying to Han Shan Yu, rebuilding Mi Suyen is a good thing. It won't affect the status of the Han family. You are really too stupid, it's just killing a few commoners. Why do you have to confront the emperor over and over again because of them? The rainy spring day gradually warmed up. Han Shan Yu was still wearing a cloak, her eyebrows and eyes were cold, just like the first time they met. Her jet black hair like crow feathers was neatly tied up with a jade hairpin. It was just that her sickly complexion was too obvious, her lips were pale and bloodless. She said to Eunuch Shu, Eunuch is right, after going to the capital, I saw the situation clearly, I was foolish before. Eunuch Shu was the top eunuch in the court, highly regarded by the emperor, but Gaoshandao was mostly barren land, and he was already old, so this time he was willing to personally come here, which really made people puzzled. Han Shanyue quickly learned the reason behind it. She used the excuse of handing over the pearl farm to hold a banquet to entertain Eunuch Shu and the 2 governors of Gaoshandao. The governor of Yongzhou Chongjiang had been ill for half a year, and the one who came was his eldest son, Chong Henning. After Michuan was built, the soldiers supervising the pearl farm would be managed by the imperial court, and at this banquet, except for Han Shanyue, the rest were all from the imperial court. During the banquet, the dancers danced gracefully, the music was melodious, Eunuch Shu was invited to sit in the upper seat, and was flattered by everyone. He was very pleased, telling Han Shanyue, the emperor was determined to rebuild Michuan, precisely because of that legendary Qizhou. Dongzhou, Qingzhou could be found, but Qizhou was hard to find. He was loyal to the emperor. This time he came to help the emperor fulfill his wish. Han Shanyue smiled. She understood Eunuch Shu's hypocrisy. The emperor was not yet 30 years old. He was not in a hurry to rebuild Michuan. This too, who was already old, a eunuch, to be able to climb to his current position, greed was of course indispensable. With endless glory and wealth, how could he bear to die? Speaking of Chizhou, Wu Shichong and Chong Henning were both stunned. Chong Henning told eunuch Shu, Chizhou was just a legend, eunuchs should not believe in this kind of rumor. The eunuch glanced at Han Shan Yu with a meaningful expression, then said, whether there is a red pearl in this world or not, Han Shan Jun should be the one who knows best. I heard that 10 years ago, the Han family sent 3,000 people to go deep into the sea at night to search for pearls, hiding it from the world. What was the reason for this? This was the Han family's secret. The pearl mining camp in Gaoshan Dao was controlled by the Han family. This secret matter was no one should know. Han Shanyue smiled slightly, calmly facing their gazes, making it difficult for people to guess her true feelings. Eunuch already knows. Han family also does not hide it. Those 3,000 dead soldiers, of course they went for Chizhou. Oh, then can they find it? Can't find it, because in this world there is no Chizhou, there will never be a Chizhou. The sea area of Chau Nei under the reefs has been considered a forbidden area by Han family for many years. Han Shanyue said, she was weak since she was young, her grandfather wanted to prolong her life, always did not give up searching for Chizhou. Han family has the most talented team of divers, those brave warriors used their lives to exchange, finally concluding a truth. The so-called Kai Chau is the egg born from the deep-sea monster named Hai Hua Thuong. Hai Hua Thuong is a monster that lives in the deep sea, with a human head and a turtle body, and a red body. They are brutal, bloodthirsty, and ferocious. Because it is extremely difficult to reproduce, they will tear those who invade their territory into pieces. They hate humans, are very sensitive to the smell of humans, and will have murderous intentions even if they are very far away. Kai Chau revives the dead? How ridiculous, the thing that is revived is not a human at all, it is just the egg of a sea monster, parasitizing in human skin. That is also the reason why the Han family later sealed off the sea area and lost interest in Kai Chau. Han Shan Yu's words not only surprised them, but even I was stunned, looking at her with a pale face. The eunuch clearly did not believe it, his face darkened, and was about to open his mouth when Han Shan Yu spoke again. Although the Kai Zhou is fake, the Han family does indeed have a longevity medicine, presented by a guest in the mansion. I want to give it to the eunuch. I hope the eunuch will accept it. Perhaps because this was a precious medicine, Han Shan Yu stood up herself, she picked up the wooden box on the low table, and walked towards the eunuch. Then she raised both hands, respectfully presenting it to him. The eunuch reached out, opened the wooden box, and then looked stunned. Inside was a 3-foot-long dagger. Before he could react, Han Shan Yu quickly grabbed the dagger and stabbed him hard. She acted so quickly, her expression was cruel, and the corner of her mouth still held a smile. Suddenly, the banquet was filled with panicked screams, the sound of swords being drawn continuously. Wu Shichong was the first to stand up. Han Shanyue. You dare to assassinate eunuch Shu? You want to rebel? As soon as he finished speaking, his head was already separated from his neck. Han Tran, the fourth master of Han, had already prepared himself, blood was splattered on his face. He quickly controlled the situation, holding his sword to Chong He Ning's neck. Han Shanyue looked at him, slowly saying, eunuch Shu and Wu Shichong are dead, now tell me, will Yongzhou rebel or not? Sweat broke out on Chong He Ning's forehead, gritting his teeth and saying, the imperial court will quickly send troops, with just this little bit of military force from Gaoshan Dao, it's just courting death. What if the Donghu people take advantage of the situation and enter? Han Shanyue, you dare to collude with the Hu people. I only asked if you would rebel or not, you answered with an oath to die without following. I praised you for having guts, then let you die happily, isn't that refreshing? Han Shan Yu was still holding that blood-stained dagger in her hand, and placed it right into his stomach. She coldly laughed and said, 1, 2. Rebel, I rebel. The Sao Shan Dao was in chaos. As expected by Chong He Ning, the imperial court quickly sent troops. At this time, Han Shan Yu's condition was already very serious. I don't know when she had set up this chessboard, or when she had started calculating. With the Chong family's help, the military forces of the two states quickly unified, with almost no objections. The death of eunuch Shu did not know how many people liked it. The emperor was immoral. At the first step of rebellion, Sao Shan Dao won the hearts of the people. Then the Donghu people conquered the northern fortresses, and rebel armies began to appear everywhere. Han Shan Yu was very optimistic about this. The cinnamon trees in the courtyard gave off a fragrant scent. I sat with her under the eaves. She wore a mink coat, tiredly leaning her head on my shoulder. If I don't go to the capital, I won't be able to lure that eunuch here. If he doesn't come, How can I kill him? Ah Bao, in this life I have ordered the killing of many people, and many people have died because of me, although there is a painful and helpless feeling, but in the end it is still a deep sin. Now eunuch Shu died in my hands. Do you think that in the future, people like the Crown Prince of Cheng will forgive me? No, because I don't want you to meet him. Idiot, everyone will die. If I can live long, I will definitely not be inferior to any man in this world. What can I do? The world is so stupid. You are my enemy, but I have never regretted anything I have done. Han Shan Yu, you protect Gao Shan Dao. I will protect you in the future, okay? Ah Bao, you have to live well. The Kai Zhou that revives the dead is just the egg of a sea monster, parasitizing in human skin. You are deceiving them, right? No, these are all true. Han Shan Yu, then what am I? You are Ah Bao, my little fool. Han Shan Yu's voice was slow, her tone gentle. My little fool, living for 18 years, has never shed a single tear, because her eyes are too beautiful, without tear glands. The wound on her hand always heals very quickly. The pierced ear from years ago has also quietly recovered to its original state. She was born knowing how to swim, falling into the sea will not drown, she can even breathe underwater. Every sentence Han Shan Yu said made my face turn a few shades paler, until finally, I asked her, how did you know? Ah Bao, you came to Han's mansion when you were 7, grew up by my side, my eyes have always followed you. How could I not discover these unusual things? You don't dare to say it, because you're afraid of being seen as a monster? It's because my father didn't let me say it. When I was little my father told me, not crying is not suffering is not crying. Wounds heal quickly, and being born knowing how to swim, are not terrible things. It's just that if people find out it will be very troublesome, so I have to be good, be a normal child. I am just a normal child. I said in panic. It wasn't until I knew that my life was exchanged by my father for the red pearl that I started to feel like a monster, very afraid of being tied up and burned to death. Han Shan Yu, are you afraid of me? Don't be afraid of me. Okay, regardless of whether I'm a human or a monster, I've never harmed anyone. Ah Bao, I know, if you're a human then you're my Ah Bao, if you're a monster then you're my little monster. Don't be afraid, I'm still here. Han Shan Yu pressed her forehead against mine, paused for a moment, and then said, if I'm gone, you don't need to be afraid. The Han family will definitely protect you. Han Shan Yu did not survive past the end of that year. She was really tired, and her deep sleep became longer and longer. She finally passed away in her deep sleep, before Ling Yi disappeared. At that time, Gao Shan Dao, under the leadership of the 4th Master Han and the 2 brothers of the Chong family, defeated the imperial army. The emperor in the capital was in turmoil, and the situation everywhere was out of control. Han Tran was first appointed as a general by a group of soldiers, and then directly raised the flag, planning to establish himself as the king of Gao Shan Dao. This was Han Shan Yu's idea. Sitting still and waiting to die could only mean locking herself in prison. People are born in shackles, and once they escape from those shackles, they will eventually become invincible. She said, she could finally rest assured to hand over the Han family to her 4th uncle. She wanted Han Tran to promise her one thing, in the future, whether it was Ling Yi or his own child, the position of family head would be taken by someone capable. Han Tran agreed, his eyes were red, and he cried out her name. You, 4th uncle can do it, he will definitely do it. She was not Han Shan Yu, she was Han Shan Yu. But it was only when she was about to die that she finally regained herself. She said, 4th uncle, Yu is troubling you. Not long after Han Shan Yu died, Ling Yi and Jia Niang went missing. Some people said that during the chaos, Jia Niang secretly took her away. When Han Tran led troops to defend the city, he saw Ling Yi's corpse in the imperial camp. That year, the guard named Yun Zhou in the Han residence was the adopted son of Shu Huan. He was so heartless, mistaking Ling Yi for Han Shan Yu's son. After killing him he tied him to the flagpole to sacrifice the flag. Ling Yi was only 3 years old. Jia Niang went crazy, holding a dagger and stabbing him. She was then shot to death by arrows. That day I wasn't there. According to Han Tran, he had cut Yun Zhou off his horse, avenging Ling Yi. The beginning of the chaos in the world was the overthrow of a cruel emperor. When there is war, there will definitely be deaths. Anyone can die, including Ling Yi. I am still Hua Bao who cannot cry, no exceptions. That year I was 19 years old. Looking back, there was no one left beside me. No father, no Han Shan Yu, no Ling Yi, and no Jia Niang. Oh, I still have Ah Shin. She is older than before, her temples have many silver strands. Fourth Master Han is not in the mansion. His wife is a pearl diver. She can ride horses with him on the battlefield, fighting for the world. Ah Shin is old, always saying she wants to go home. I can't persuade her. In the end I can only arrange the carriage and servants, give her some careful instructions, then send her back to the countryside. Ever since she left, I feel more and more trapped in the deep house, living without any regrets. Writing, painting, playing music, none of it can make me feel less lonely. So on a sunny afternoon, I went to dig up Han Shan Yu's grave. When she was buried, she had a pearl in her mouth. After half a year of burial, her body still looked alive, as if she had just died. I carried her out of the coffin. Her body was not heavy at all, and my strength was not small. I carried her like that, moving forward step by step quite lightly. Gaoshan Road was a desolate land. I carried her straight towards the Pearl Sea. Her face was pressed against my shoulder as if she was in deep sleep. I said, Han Shan Yu, I am a bit sad alone, can I read you a poem? Don't worry, this time it is not a love poem. The waves are bottomless, pearls sink to the bottom of the sea, all pearl divers lose their lives. 5 years of pearl diving, pearls have avoided. This year the pearl was fished out by the sea god. The sea god searched for pearls, all the pearls died, all the bright pearls died, the seawater was also empty. Pearls are things of the sea belongs to the god now searches for them himself, let alone people. I have never told you, since I was very young, I have longed for the sea. But my father never allowed me to go into the water. I am a good child, very obedient to adults, will not make things difficult for my father. Now everyone is gone, I decided to return to the sea to take a look. Han Shan Yu, after you died, the second son of the Chong family always came to your grave to pay respects to you. Sometimes he stayed very late. I was jealous, so I decided to dig you up and take you away. Who told you that before you died, the corners of your eyes were filled with tears, saying to me sentence after sentence, Abao, I miss you. I also miss you. So, I took her with me and went down to the deep sea together.